Welcome to this week's episode of Talk of the Town. My name is Philip Swiskett, and I'm back with my good friend and co-host, Dr. Kenneth Harper from Vein Specialist of the South. Now, if you have questions about your veins, give my friends at Vein Specialist of the South a call, and they will get you the answers that you deserve. Also, if you're one of our brand new viewers on WMGT, one, thanks so much for welcoming us into your home each and every week. If you haven't seen the show before, here's what you can expect in the weeks ahead. A conversation between me, Dr. Harper, and someone in the community that is making a difference. This week is no exception as we are interviewing Wes Griffith, who is the president and CEO of the Moonhanger Group, which is the parent company of places like the Rookery, Dovetail, H&H, several other restaurants in town, and most recently, the Woodward Hotel. We are today in the Quill, which is the cocktail bar of the Woodward Hotel. For this interview, Wes, thanks so much for sitting down and doing this with us.
Thanks for having me.
You know, I've been looking forward to this interview for a long time. Well,
All right.
And we're so glad we got you to come on with us. When you moved away for college, tell us a little bit about that and your dreams or aspirations. Were you thinking about coming back to Macon? Kind of how'd you wind up coming home?
Well, I don't know if I was thinking too much past what was in front of me, but it never really occurred to me to go somewhere else. I always felt like this was home and naturally wanted to come back.
Right. There you were in Tulane?
I was at Tulane University in New Orleans. I was determined to go experience New Orleans as a lover of that culture and a big music lover. I wanted to experience that town.
So what did you pick up from there you maybe brought back to Macon as far as historic preservation and other things like that?
You know, a love for the culture down there and food and music and just the kind of the melting pot of cultures that's down there, and just real passionate about all that. Loved experiencing it, and I think that's maybe reflected a little bit in some of the things I'm drawn to.
Yeah, you know, we don't have the Mardi Gras, but we have a lot of that musical and cultural heritage here that can tie in
Yeah,
with similar things that do in New Orleans.
right. I was always a big ambassador for Macon, telling anybody that would listen, like, well, we've got some music history too where I'm from.
Awesome.
We've got a whole lot of music history here, actually, you know, and I was just thinking before this interview began, all of the actual businesses and the buildings that you and your family have been able to preserve has been quite staggering over the years. I mean, your imprint in downtown Macon just cannot be denied. It's fantastic what you guys have done. But along those lines, I want to ask you, though, about the Woodward Hotel. Why open up a boutique hotel in downtown Macon?
That's a good question. Over the last several years, turning the upper floors of a lot of downtown buildings into lofts has been, very in vogue and very successful. And it occurred to me a few years ago that there was, maybe something else that you could do with some of these buildings, and that I felt like we didn't really have a lot of hotels right in the heart of downtown. We had, we had the Marriott that came across the river, and we don't have what was the Crown Plaza anymore. So we didn't really have any places that you could stay downtown that was where you could really just hop out the door and walk to all the different nightlife.
And you can hear, because you're literally right in the middle of
We're
everything.
right next to the Capitol Theater, which is also a project that I was proud to be associated with, and we're right in the center of downtown. You can pretty much walk to everything.
I understand it's a keyless entry into the hotel. Is that right?
Yeah, it's not a full service hotel.
Okay.
It's more of a kind of a hybrid self service. I mean, we have people here during check in, but it's automated. You get a code to the parking garage. You get a code to get in the building. You get a code to get into your room. And so it's kind of a new style that a lot of people are doing.
It's cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I had a friend say that that these rooms are actually beautiful.
They're
that
very nice.
they're very unique, they're very non-traditional, but they're just fantastic rooms.
Yeah, they did. We used a local design firm, Robinson Home, Carrie Robinson.
Yeah.
And she did the design, did a really fantastic job. They were really well appointed. Lots of nice amenities in there, high quality Matouk sheets and Malin and Goat soaps and things like that. These are things that my wife and I have seen in a lot of other boutique hotels around. And
So it sounds like it'd be perfect for a staycation. If someone wants to come downtown, eat some good food.
we've had a lot of people doing the staycation thing. It's
Right.
really nice. Like we've had a lot of people that will go get a ticket to the show at the Harvard Capitol Theater, and then they'll stay here and have a drink before or after the show here at the Quill Cocktail Bar. So, and perhaps get dinner over at Rookery or Dovetail.
So what big acts are coming up in maybe March and April? Do you want to share a little bit about that? What people might want to go ahead and get tickets to and a room?
Yeah, we've got some really good shows in March. Two of our big shows are Kingfish Ingram in Chris Stone Kingfish Ingram. He's a kind of a torchbearer for the blues in the style of like B.B. King and Buddy Guy, and he's made quite a name for himself. That show is March 24th. On March 31st, we have the return of St. Paul and the Broken Bones, which had a very kind of famous show, sold out show here a few years back that people still talk about.
Right.
So we're excited to have them come back. And then we've got the North Mississippi All-Stars are coming in April. They have recently been joined with Lamar Williams Jr., who has a lot of ties to Macon. His father was the second bassist for the Allman Brothers Band.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So if you should go ahead and buy your tickets for that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. HardRayCapitalTheater.com and get your tickets.
All right. Now, I was thinking about my favorite concert I saw there was probably Greg Allman. I think it may be his last live concert.
That was Greg Allman's last Macon
Yeah.
show. Normally we played the Grand Opera House,
Right.
but that was a pop-up show where he had something canceled, and they reached out to us and said we want to do a show, and we put that thing on. It sold out in like less
Right.
than 24 hours.
So what's your favorite show you remember in there?
Well, there was several years back, there was a 12-month period where we had Jason Isbell, Sturgill Simpson, and Chris Stapleton all play, and I feel like that's pretty up there in terms of being able to have some artists in there that went on to do some pretty big things.
How'd y'all come up with a name for the hotel?
Okay, the Woodward, that's a pretty simple answer because the Woodward is a family name, and my grandfather, Dr. Ben Griffith Jr., Dr. Benjamin Woodward Griffith Jr., and my father's Benji Woodward Griffith III. The inspiration for this hotel is a literary theme. My grandfather was an English professor at Mercer and later West Georgia College, and when he lived here in Macon, he had a pretty good relationship with Flannery O'Connor, who lived in Milledgeville. He used to take his students to visit her, and they wrote a lot of letters back and forth, some of which are published in a book of letters about Flannery O'Connor. And I've actually got one of his an original letter of correspondence from Flannery O'Connor to my grandfather up here on the wall. He sold this to a bookstore in New Orleans
Really?
many years ago, and my father spent many years trying to buy it back, and the owners of the bookstore would never sell it. And I took up that challenge, and they said no to me too. But recently, I called and I said, "Look, one more time, I just want to tell you, I'm doing this hotel. It's literary themed. It's to honor my grandfather, and I want to ask you one more time, would you please sell me this letter back so that we can get it
And
back
they
to the
did.
family?" And they did.
Wow.
And so now it hangs on the wall here at Quill.
Now, Wes, I've got more questions for you specifically about the Quill and the different cocktails that you guys serve. But first, we have to take a quick commercial break for a word from our sponsor.
I'm a mom and a professional outside sales representative, always on the go. I enjoy spending time working in my yard, shopping, and going on long walks. After being pregnant with my second child, I was left with terrible varicose veins in both legs. This caused heaviness, pain, and swelling, which I dealt with for years, but it was more of a cosmetic issue. I wanted great-looking legs. Then a friend told me about Vein Specialist of the South. This office wasn't what I expected. They listened to my concerns, and the staff were extremely caring and informative about the procedure and what to expect. Plus, the procedure had minimal downtime. Since having the procedure, my legs feel amazing, and I have my youthful legs back. I would have addressed it years ago if I'd have known how easy it was. If you want 5-star vein care, I encourage you to call Vein Specialist of the South today.
All right, so Wes, so we're sitting in the Quill, which is the cocktail bar inside the Woodward Hotel. And I'm curious, since this is a cocktail bar, I've got to ask you, what's your favorite cocktail here?
I really like the Dear God, which is a reference to Alice Walker's Color Purple. And, it's a purple drink, so I'm a little embarrassed to say that my favorite drink is a purple drink, but it's undeniably good. And yeah, it's really, really good. It's the most popular drink we have here.
Now you have some great outdoor space here too, right?
We do. We have a rooftop deck that you can sit with a fire pit and a lot of furniture up there. And we actually painted some murals that you can see from the rooftop.
Who's the mural on?
We've got 3 murals, and we've got a 4th one coming. The 4th one will be Tennessee Williams. The 3 that we have up now are Flannery O'Connor, John Oliver Killens, and Alice Walker. And John Oliver Killens is somebody that I'm excited to highlight because he was an African American author that was born and raised in Pleasant Hill, and went on to be like one of the co-founders of the Harlem Writers Guild, and wrote a very critically renowned book called Youngblood.
You know, Macon, there's so much talent that goes deep and historically across all genres, all races. It is a really amazing history, and to be able to remind people of that is one of the reasons we want to interview today. So the other thing I think that we see you do is taking iconic businesses like the Rookery or H&H or Grant's Lounge and really, for lack of a better word, saving the heritage of them. And tell us a little bit about that and your passion for that.
I guess you could call it kind of cultural preservation. I've always been into music, and one of the first things I did when I came back, one of the first kind of projects I did on my own is I promoted a Doc Watson concert at the Grand Opera House and did a few other things. And my dad made the comment, you're helping to improve the quality of life here. And that kind of gave me some motivation. And so, as I've gotten into, the food and entertainment industry, it's just been kind of natural to kind of preserve some of these cultural landmarks and these important businesses in our community that are so interwoven with our history and the culture and the cultural contributions that have come out of the city.
Because I believe it was, which one was it? It was H&H, classic restaurant. That it was the Allman Brothers, isn't that right? That ate at H&H.
Yeah, the story goes that when the Allman Brothers had first come to town and were getting started and didn't have hardly 2 pennies to scratch together, that they came across the restaurant, went in, tried to share a plate or two between them, gathering up their money, and Mama Louise said, "Boys, just let me feed you. You can pay me later." And friendship was born, and she became a very matriarchal figure to that whole 70s Southern rock and Capricorn movement. And she became like a mother to a lot of people, including like the Allman Brothers and many others. Several years ago, Mama Louise was, getting ready to shut it down, and it just felt like that
She was 90 something, right?
Yeah. And we just felt like it would be a shame for that to go away, and we came in and made some improvements, bought it from her, kept her on, and she was part of the team and on the payroll and coming in, till she passed recently this past year.
Wow.
Thank you for doing that for the community, for really everybody who loves Southern rock and roll. People come from all over the country and really from all over the world. They come to H&H when they come to Macon.
They do. It's part of the pilgrimage.
So if you haven't been to H&H, you got to go. So tell us about the mural that was recently painted on the side, because that's iconic in itself.
Well, that really felt like kind of putting a bow on that place and really giving it something that really paid homage to its history. And we just kind of had the idea of a mural, and we ended up coming across a guy that had done he had done a painting of Greg Allman that we saw online, and so we reached out to him, and he said that he did large murals. Right. And we worked it out. He came to town. He was here for like 30 days.
Yeah, he was here a long time.
It took him a few weeks, almost 30 days to do it, and he did it all with spray paint cans, and it's just really a beautiful piece of art.
If you don't know where H&H is, it's near Navasant, kind of on Cotton Avenue. That whole area's been renovated in there.
Yeah, it's a 5-way intersection.
Yes.
Our little 5 points.
Right. If you ask anybody downtown, where's H&H, they can tell you where H&H is.
Also on this list, again, these are businesses that are owned by the Moonhanger Group. Also on this list is Grant's Lounge. And I think people have heard of Grant's Lounge, but they may not be as familiar with it and the history surrounding it as they actually could be. Can you fill us in on some of those details and the history behind it?
So Grant's Lounge was founded in 1971 by Ed Grant Sr. And it was, he had been a bartender out at Idlehour Country Club. And so he knew everybody. He knew a lot of people in town, white, black, whoever. He knew everybody. And he decided he wanted to open his own place, and he opened Grant's Lounge. And it quickly became a live performance hotspot, and then it morphed into kind of the unofficial live stage for Capricorn Records. So everybody like the Allman Brothers and Leonard Skinner and Tom Petty played there for like a whole week trying out for Capricorn and didn't get signed. And so they had all these famous people playing, and it was just a cool place where you show up, you never knew who you were going to see. And another cool thing about it, much like H&H, which it was one of the few businesses in the early 70s that, had a very mixed clientele racially. You had, you go in there and it'd be, half white, half black. So you had that kind of racial diversity happening at an early time. And, that's important part of our history to me too. So
Tell us, you're also involved with Capricorn Museum and recording studios. So tell us a little bit about the guys that you're associated with over there and what you're doing to preserve the heritage of that.
Well, that was a Mercer University project to restore the Capricorn Sound Studios and Museum. And there's also an incubator over there where young musicians can rent rehearsal space. And then Mercer does some educational things over there. And so it was the original studio, the main studio for Capricorn was completely preserved. They put in this amazing one of a kind built soundboard in there that was designed to be similar to the original board. And my partner Rob Evans and I, who started the 100.9 The Creek radio station together, we basically kind of manage that facility for Mercer. So we run the museum and studios, and we've had a good year. We had a young blues artist named 89 Volt recorded an album there, called it Capricorn, and it's currently #1 on the Billboard Blues charts.
Really?
And so he's making waves. And then we just had George Boyd Brentkoff just recorded his last album here. Marcus King, another young guitar slinger in the Southern rock.
I think some of those guys, those people should show up at the Grant Slam unexpectedly, like
Well,
it used to happen back in the day, right?
It's funny you should say that because when Marcus King was in town a couple of weeks ago, he brought his producer to check out Capricorn to see if they wanted to record there, and he did end up on the stage playing at Grant Slam.
So you never know,
Yeah,
even
and
today.
some guys that work at Rookery that also play in local bands happened to be there and got to play with them, and they were very, very excited about that impromptu jam session with Marcus King.
That's pretty cool. So tell us about the radio. It plays Americana. It's locally owned. There aren't many radio stations around that are locally owned. How in the world did that happen?
Oh, well, that's a long story. It was the radio station was in bankruptcy, and I bought it out of bankruptcy, which ended up being a long, drawn out, complicated process. However, when I found out it might be a possibility, we just looked into it, and it was complicated, but it was doable, and we wanted to do American roots music, and we wanted to do it through the lens of Macon, Georgia. We wanted to pay homage to Macon's music heritage. So, we play plenty of Allman Brothers, Wet Willie, Cowboy, Little Richard, Otis Redding. We play all the Macon greats. And so, yeah, that's been a labor of love. It's been very exciting. And we play Americana or what I like to say, American roots music.
And what's that radio station again? In case
It's called 100.9 The Creek. It's at 100.9 FM, and if you're downtown, 102.9.
Very nice.
You can stream it.
And you can stream it. Our website's thecreekfm.com. Stream it anywhere.
Now, Dr. Harper, I want to ask you, with these list of restaurants, is there a certain meal that comes to mind that really stands out to you at any one of these?
Obviously, it's breakfast on Saturday mornings at H&H for us.
Of course,
It's kind of a tradition.
I thought you were going to say Dovetail.
We
because your
have
son worked there.
Yeah, our son Thomas worked there, and we love Dovetail. It is kind of a farm to table restaurant.
Yeah.
I've never had anything on the menu that wasn't great. I'm kind of gravitate toward the pork chops when you have those on.
Yeah.
And of course, you got to get the dessert with the crack pie.
That was,
And maybe you can share what
my,
that is.
Well, my wife Betsy was responsible for the crack pie recipe. It was actually inspired by a dessert bar in New York called Momofuku, and I think it was David Chang, I believe, his place, and they created the crack pie, and my wife put her twist on it, and came up with her own recipe, and it's been a mainstay at Dovetail ever since.
If you go, you got to try it. Now, I have a personal question from one of my employees, Elizabeth, who actually knew y'all grew up together. She wants to know how much in advance you have to call to get a reservation down there, because she says y'all stay pretty booked up.
It's getting harder and harder. We're open 7 days a week now. We used to do brunch, but we jettisoned brunch for a Sunday and Monday dinner. So we do 7 dinner services a week, and we stay pretty booked, especially on the weekends. You want to call
2 weeks or something ahead?
well, usually if you call a week ahead, you're good for the
Okay.
weekend, and you still can walk in and get a table sometimes on a Monday and Tuesday night. So.
Are y'all on open table or some kind of?
We were on open table, but now we're on Resi.
Resi. So Resi.
Yeah,
if you want to
Resi. We
reserve-
use Resi for Natalia's and Dovetail, and also we had some big news recently that our longtime chef at Dovetail, Brad Stevens, we sent him over to Natalia's.
Yeah, we asked where he was a couple weeks ago, and they said, "Oh, he's out in Natalia's." So they also own Natalia's, which was preservation of another historic restaurant in Macon.
Yeah, that was very honored that when Natalia decided to retire, she reached out and said, "I'd like you to consider taking this over." And so that was quite an honor, and it's been quite the challenge living up to her. And we haven't always got it right, but we're hanging in there. And I noticed that she liked one of our pictures on Facebook the other night,
That's
so that
nice.
was a good sign. And
Right.
yeah.
So
That's a win.
what's your favorite meal at one of their restaurants?
The Jimmy Carter burger at the Rookery. Go try it. Okay, so what's on this burger? So you have the buns, burger patty, but there's peanut butter and then bacon. That's like 2 of my favorite food groups. Right there on the burger is fantastic.
It's surprisingly the beef and the peanut butter are a surprisingly magical combo.
And you wouldn't think it.
Yeah, and of course Jimmy Carter. That was a shout out to the peanut farmer himself,
Right.
our former president in Georgia, Jimmy Carter. So.
Yeah.
So Wes, you're obviously a longtime Macon guy. You've been here for a while and you know the community likely better than anyone. As you begin to look ahead at the future of Macon, what excites you about the future of Macon? What do you look forward to?
Well, I'm really excited and proud to have been a part of downtown's revitalization, and over the last few years, that's really hit a critical, really started to snowball and really take off, and so I'm excited to see how far we can take the kind of building up of our downtown. I've always felt that, the downtowns across America, dried up, and it's just so great that they're coming back. Common spaces and entertainment districts, I think, are amazing. But I'll tell you what I'm most excited about is the national park effort. I think, to me, what we're doing as a community to reach out to the Muskogee Creek Nation that came before us. We're celebrating our bicentennial this year, 200 years of Macon, and as a part of that, we look back and we say, well, there were people here before us, and that was the Muskogee Creek Nation, and the mounds were their ancestral homelands, and the fact that we have been able to get as far as we can to have a bill prepared that hopefully is passed in Congress very soon to designate the Okmulgee Mounds into a national park, and then co-manage that with the people who belong to that land belongs to, the Muskogee Creek Nation. I think that's exciting. I think that's something that Macon will really be able to hang as a feather in our cap, and something we can really hang our hat on and say, we were across the entire nation. We were leaders here. We found a way to invite the people that came before us back and co-manage a national park and celebrate this place, and have a cultural exchange and understand and try to rebuild that bridge and promote some some positivity.
So we're obviously sitting here in the Quill, the brand new cocktail bar here in downtown Macon, but I understand that you guys had some partners in this project. Tell us a little bit about who they were.
We did. Newtown Macon was our partner on this project, and I, I had this idea to do this Airbnb, and I almost kind of gave up on it. And I mentioned it to Josh Rogers, and he said, "Man, that's a good idea. Like, if you want a partner to help you through it, we might be interested." So we worked with Josh in Newtown, and they were our partners on this project. And he's so amazing with managing building projects and development projects, and they were able to manage the tax credit process. So it was a tax credit project, and we were able to make the project more financially feasible by claiming historic tax credits and syndicating those. So they were a great partner. Still, we're partners together. They've kind of left the day-to-day management to the Moonhanger Group, but they've been amazing. And I worked for Newtown Macon, was one of my first jobs when I came back, and have always been enamored and supportive of what they're doing, and it's really exciting to be able to work with them on a project.
Newtown has been a major driving force in a lot of things we see happen downtown, and I'm glad to see y'all partnering with them on this project.
Yeah, they've done a lot of great for our city.
It seemed, obviously from our interview today, it's pretty clear why we wanted to interview you, because you got your finger on the heartbeat of downtown Macon. You're involved, you love it, and you make a huge difference in the day-to-day life of people who move in downtown and people that come from out of town to visit.
Yeah. Well, we got to have cool things to do.
Right.
If people are going to have people move here and live here, and I think it just it helps.
So keep it up.
Thank you. I'll keep.
We encourage you guys. Some of the things they're involved with. Support them, and make Macon a better place to live and work and play.
Wes, I love the quote. We got to have cool things to do for people to move to Middle Georgia. We're going to remember that. Thank you guys for tuning in this week. Stay tuned for where me and Dr. Harper will show up next. You never know where that might be.
I work in inventory management, requiring a lot of walking and standing on concrete. After many years, my veins were bulging and swollen, and I was embarrassed to wear shorts or even a bathing suit. Then I found Vein Specialists of the South. The staff were very caring and professional. They explained everything during my procedure. The best part, there was little downtime and I could feel a difference in my legs immediately. If you want the best for your legs, call Vein Specialists of the South today.